So today we're just gonna free flow a bunch of topics, just talk about entrepreneurship, life, sacrifice, balance, all that shit. We're gonna see where we go. So one thing that we notice a lot of times with brand owners is that as a brand owner, you're creating something and putting it out into the world. You have a vision, you have a message you want to share with the world. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to find your audience or for your audience to find you and for that brand and message to gain traction. And a lot of times in your initial launch, you won't gain traction. You'll feel like you are like nobody likes it, like nobody likes you, like your message is not worthy of being out there. And it can be very frustrating. So you have to know when to walk the line of paying attention to the market and when to ignore the market. So you as a brand owner, it's very important that you build your brand aligned with your vision. Like you have to have something big in the sky, something big that you're aiming for so that people can see it and visualize it and follow along with you. They want to be a part of that journey. But the other part of it is if you have, a product or a service or whatever it is and they're paying you as a business, now you're left with the market of like, okay, they might like it, but are they actually going to buy it? Like, do they like it enough? Does it connect with them enough? They're going to actually put money out of their pocket and actually purchase this to become a part of it. And sometimes that can be a very big disconnect. Like you have this idea and this vision that's going here, and the market's like, well, we kind of want to see this from you. And it can be very kind of tumultuous in the beginning to figure out where that line is and how to walk it. And what I found, there's two ways to do it. Well, actually, there's three ways. Number one, you just say, fuck it. Fuck the market, fuck everybody. I'm gonna do only my vision and only my shit and see how it goes. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. And 100% authenticity and fuck everything and everything else. That's one way to do it. The other way is you sacrifice that and you go with what the market wants. You're like, well, I really like this, but this is what sells, so we're just gonna do that. And you sacrifice what your vision is. The problem with that is it can sometimes work, but it ends up diluting the brand and you end up not actually enjoying the company anymore because you're not fulfilling your vision. You're not going where you want to go. So I don't recommend that. The third option I found is the best, where you have your vision and your escalation and you're very clear with where you want to go, but you're also paying attention to the market. You have to pay attention to what people want from you, and you have to be aware of how the market sees your brand, not just how you see the brand. It's a matter of perspective. You might see the brand one way, but you see it all the time. You live it, eat it, breathe it, sleep it. So it's very important that you understand that not everyone, in fact, no one else is going to see your brand the way that you do. So you have to step outside yourself and you have to look at what the brand is perceived like in the marketplace. And you have to craft that vision. You can't go 100% authentic and fuck everything else because then nobody's gonna buy your shit. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna have a business, but it's not gonna work because nobody's gonna buy it. And you can't go full the other way because now you're just a sellout and it's not authentic, and that'll eventually flame out too. So you have to find that alignment between your true authentic vision and what the marketplace wants. And if you can align those, you can have something very big that has supreme longevity, and also you can have a great time building and have a ton of fun. But I think both of those extremes on either side generally don't end very well. And the best thing you could do is find what that balance is for you and your true north for the brand, and also communicate that in a way where the rest of the market can see where you want to go, and they'll go there with you. Because ultimately a business is not a business without customers. It's not a business without people that want to be a part of it and follow you and your message and your product. So I think you have to find that alignment, but you also have to maintain yourself, and you have to maintain, that core drive and desire and passion for what it is that made you start the brand in the first place. But if you're pulled between those two, just know that's a very normal experience. Every brand goes through it. And you got to find what that right balance looks like for you. And one of the things that we've noticed that's super powerful for brands that most brand owners don't do is simply pay attention to the numbers. So we're going to explain very briefly how to do that, because we've been doing it for my own brands and some of our clients for like 15 years now, and we have our own calculators, our own spreadsheets. We pull data. It's a pretty good size operation that we have going, and it gets great results. We're accurate between 90 and 95% usually with our projections and predictions, so that helps out a lot. So, but basically what happens is, if you have say an idea for a brand or a design, you're like, okay, I want to get 100 units of this design. There's a sizing ratio that goes with it, because you don't sell, say you want to get 100 units, you can't get 20 smalls, 20 mediums, 20 larges, and 20 XLs. Like, you can't order flat, because it's not what the sales curve looks like. The sales curve looks like small, medium, large, extra large, and double X, triple X. So if you order flat, you're very quickly going to be out of the large and extra large, and you're going to have a whole lot left of like the triple X and the smalls. So you have to know what your target market's sizing ratio is, so that when you order, you're ordering, ideally 80 to 90% accuracy rate on what that curve is. And the other piece of that, not just your sizing ratio, but the other piece is the sales trajectory, right? So if 100 units is going to last you, say, 6 weeks. So, and you say you have a 3-week lead time. Now we get a little complicated, follow on. So we have a 6 weeks worth of inventory and a 3-week lead time. So that means if I'm projected to run out of all sizes on this date, which is ideal, it never works out like that, but perfect world, I'm gonna run out of all 100 units, all sizes on the exact same day, and have a 3-week lead time. That means as this is 3 weeks in after I get my first order, I need to place another order, so that production timeline of 3 weeks, as soon as I'm out of stock on all my sizes and that design, the new stock lands and I'm able to keep inventory. That's ideal. Most brands we recommend keeping 4 to 6 weeks worth of inventory at any one time. The most I'd recommend is maybe 6 months worth of inventory. Like, maybe you get a great deal at high volume and you're like, hey, this is my best selling design. I know I'm gonna sell 1,000 t-shirts in the next 6 months. I wanna get 1,000 unit pricing. Cool, that makes sense. But it doesn't make sense to store 6 months worth of inventory in all your designs, because now you might have a whole bunch of warehouse space, and that's not free. You got to pay for it. If it's your own warehouse, you're paying for that square footage. If you're using a fulfillment company like us, you're still paying for that square footage. So it is not free to hold inventory, whether that's you or somebody else doing it. You're still paying for that square footage. So that's why we recommend pay close attention to the numbers and start with 4 to 6 weeks worth of inventory. It depends on your lead time, but if you got a 2 to 3 week lead time, 4 to 6 weeks worth of inventory is a pretty good baseline to start with. If you're producing stuff overseas and your lead time is longer, like 2 to 3 months, now you're going to have to order in 6 months, maybe 9 month cycles. Some of the big brands that do really, really high volume numbers, a lot of wholesale brick and mortar accounts, they'll order a year out. But it's a totally different level. Most of you guys that are watching this are not, in Macy's and Nordstrom's and all this other stuff. So you don't need to worry about that just yet. It's very important that you pay attention to the data, because that's going to be the difference in a lot of cases between, having an apparel brand and having a profitable apparel brand. Most apparel brands at scale, like when they're ordering, 1,000 units or more, are generally operating around a 400% markup. So if you're selling a t-shirt for $30, you should generally be looking to get that product for around $750 at 1,000 units. If you're selling a $20 t-shirt, now granted, a $30 t-shirt, very different quality level than a $20 t-shirt. So you want to get that $20 t-shirt around $5. So there are ways to adjust these things. A lot of it is tied into volume. Volume plays a huge role in screen printing. But it's important that you know the numbers. And if you as a brand owner don't, it's totally fine. Maybe your time is not best spent on this stuff. If your time is better spent on the creative vision and coming up with the designs and the branding strategy and the marketing and engaging with your customers, that's where you should spend your time. All right. So, but if you don't have at least a basic understanding of this, you should really have somebody on your team. Everybody needs a nerd. We're a nerd. We're the nerd for a lot of brands, and I love it. We're really good at it, and this is one of the things that I love and enjoy is the numbers, because they're very black and white. They're very clean. It either works or it doesn't work. It's not like art and design where it's subjective. The numbers are either what they are or they're not. But I would say if you're starting a brand, stay with your strengths. Do what you're really good at. Do what only you can do and nobody else can take your place. And that's drive the vision, that's drive the message, let's drive the brand forward. And find somebody else to do the things you're not good at. Is that nerdy enough?
That was perfect. That was really good.
All right, so folding and bagging of your apparel line. So when you're first starting out, I had this exact experience where Mike Sowers and I were first starting Forge. We went to a print shop and they're like, hey, we'll print them, you know, obviously, but do you want them, you know, folded and bagged, you know, like this? And we're like, oh, how much does that cost? Oh, you know, 50 cents. We're like, dude, no way. I'm not paying. I think we had like a 500 unit order. Like we're not paying $250 to have these folded and bagged. We're just gonna have some beers at our house and do it ourselves. It'd be totally fine. I think at the time too, we were putting in hang tags with like a safety pin and some thread, and that's more expensive too. But we're like, we'll just do it ourselves. We crack some beers to the bros and we'll just fold them and put them in bags ourselves. And dude, we brought back those 500 units to our apartment, and it was 3 of us at the time, and we're sitting there having some beers, and the first like 50 were fun and fine. We're like, oh, cool, this is no big deal. We're folding, like, this is cool. And then it took like maybe an hour into it. And we're like, dude, this kind of sucks. We ended up going through about 200 of them. It took us like 2.5 hours. And finally, like, we took all of them back to the print shop the next day. And we're like, bro, I will gladly pay you an extra 50 cents to fold and bag all these for us. So it was a big lesson learned where there's that value apex of like, you do want to save money. It's very important to keep your costs as low as possible. But if you do that to a point where it takes you away from your primary purpose in the brand, which is driving it forward and doing the things only you as the brand owner can do, you shouldn't be the one folding and bagging all your stuff. And not only that, there are certain things that make sense to do at low volume. So if you're only running like, you know, 50 or 100 shirts, yeah, you can fold them yourself, no big deal. But you should not be doing that, and you can't do that at 500, 1,000, 5,000, 10,000 units a month. It just, at a certain point, it becomes a physical impossibility. So you have to find what that value apex is to where it makes sense to pay for certain things at a certain growth point. That's going to be different for everybody in the different cycle. But generally what we recommend is if you're a clothing brand, you should probably be getting your product fully folded and bagged, ready to go, so that when you unbox it and you pull this out, you put it on your shelf, when you get an order, you just have the envelope there, you put the shipping label on it, you grab it off the shelf, throw it right in there, and it saves you so much time. So there's a lot of these little things that only make sense at certain points in scale, but it's important that you always have in mind that, yes, you absolutely want to save money, but value is different than price. So the price of that is well worth the time. It actually saves us a lot of money from the time that we spend folding and bagging. The time that it would take me to fold and bag, I can do other stuff that moves the brand way more forward than me spending 2 hours folding and bagging. And likely if your brand is doing, you know, over, you know, at least low 6 figures in revenue a year, you should be getting your stuff individually folded and bagged. You should not be the one folding and bagging all your stuff. It'll be a total game changer for you once you open that bag or that box with all the product and you just plug it on the shelf and you save hours and hours and hours a week. Because also too, you as the brand owner, that mental bandwidth that takes up where you're doing monotonous tasks and it pulls you out of the creativity and, you know, the driving the vision forward. Nobody can replace that for you. As the brand owner, nobody can replace your vision and your message and you being in front of the brand. Nobody else can do that. You can't pay anybody any amount of money to do that. But you can pay somebody 50 cents to fold and bag your shirt for you. So this is just one example of that. There's many examples of that as you scale and grow your business. You'll have that same apex value conversation with yourself about everything. But it's very important that you don't just look at the price of something. Make sure you look at the value of something because they're very often not the same thing. Fuck yeah.
So because that's a great point. Because like 250. Yeah.
What's up?